Thank you so much, Robert Stearns. It now gives me great pleasure to speak into the next section, which basically is what the churches are doing globally, both inside the United States and outside, to highlight the plight of persecuted Christians. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Adrian Hawkes, Director, Phoenix Community Centre, Community Care of the United Kingdom. Adrian, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for making this possible, Ngozi, and for Kevin. Greetings from the United Kingdom and from the city that speaks the most languages of any city in the world. That's London, in case you didn't know. That's where I'm from. You know, one of the things I think that we really have heard lots of statistics today, haven't we? But I want to talk a little bit about getting our hands dirty, and you get your hands dirty at the coalface. But let's remind ourselves about the statistics, because we've heard them lots of times today, so you ought to go home with them. At the moment, there are 4 million refugees from Syria. Lebanon has taken in 1,700,000 of those refugees. Turkey has taken in 1,600,000. Over 200,000 have fled to Iraq, and Egypt has already got 136,000 of those refugees. I work in the United Kingdom with refugees and asylum seekers, young people who come into the country without home, without parents, usually 15, 16, 17 or 18-year-olds. And we work with those people. In 2014, just 50 refugees came from Syria to the United Kingdom. That's not 50,000, that's not 500,000, that's 50. My company took 5% of those refugees, which means that we actually had 2 people. Now, I live in the 5th richest country in the world. We need to be doing more than that. Currently, the world, do you know this? But the world currently has more displaced people than the end of World War II. That is where we are. More displaced people than the end of World War II. The trouble is that when we get away from the coalface and we stop getting our hands dirty, we see the statistics, we see the pictures on television, but somehow or other it doesn't have the impact on us that it ought to have. I was in a refugee camp and a lady came to me and she shoved her baby into my arms and she said, "If you don't take my baby, it will die." I'm a foreigner in a foreign country. I don't know what to do. I put the baby back quickly into her arms and moved away. But I tell you, that picture many years ago is still in my head. I can't get it out of my head. One day a young man came into my office and he said, "Adrian, can I sit by your desk?" I said, "Yes." "Why?" He said, "I am so unhappy." He sat on the floor next to me and I said, "What is the matter?" He said, "My mother is dying. I have run away from the war and I don't know what to do." He sat for 5 days next to my desk, just rocking and crying. I didn't have words to comfort him. My daughter was teaching an English class for young refugees, and she came to me and she said, "Would you take this man out of the class because he's so depressed, he's not taking anything in." I brought him into my office. I said, "What is the matter with you?" He said, "I am so fed up." He said, "I have run away," and he said, "I have lost my twin brothers on the journey. I don't know where they are." I said, "What happened to your father?" He said, "He was beheaded for supporting the Americans." I said, "What happened to your mother?" He said, "They shot her in front of me because they said she should have reported my father. And he said, "We just ran away." And he said, "Now I've lost my brothers." It was a good news story because we got other agencies on board and the Salvation Army found his twin brothers in Turkey. So that was a good news story. The trouble is that when we see these things and they personally affect us and we get our hands dirty, and I think we all can get our hands dirty, suddenly we discover it is a real world. They aren't just statistics, they are people. People like you and I, people with stories, people with families. And we must do more than we are doing. And we need to put pressure on our governments. I need to put pressure on my government because we ought to be doing more. Just supplying the tents and the food, that is not enough. We are rich enough to actually say, let us help in much more substantial ways than that. We can do more. The reality is that the UN ought to be doing more. It is declared in Article 47/135 that we care about minorities in different nations. We ought to care. These are important people. And the United Nations has already said we want to do something about these people. We should pass laws. We should protect our minorities. And yet we don't. Maybe the United Nations ought to strengthen its charter and say where nations are not respecting their minorities, we're going to interfere in your nation. Maybe we should be doing that. We should be protecting, we should stick by that article that has already been declared. In the meantime, though, as has already been said this afternoon, we also need to get our hands dirty. We need to get involved. We need to do things. We need to touch people. Sometimes people say to us, how can you have cared for all these people? Well, we just started. You know, sometimes one person is important. It's the old story, you know, about the little boy who was throwing starfish into the sea and rescuing them, and a man came along and said, it's waste of time, there's too many. And the little boy picked up the next starfish and he threw it back into the water. He said, yes, but it matters to that one. What can you do? Do it for one, and then you'll find you can do it for more. If we all do a little bit, a great deal is accomplished. You only have to do a little bit. When you look into the eyes of the individuals and you see their pain and you feel it and you understand it, it changes you forever. You can never be the same. We need to be thinking about those people. We need to be writing to our MPs, our parliamentarians, our United Nations representative and saying, what about these people? What about, he's been mentioned already today, what about Saeed? He's in prison. Why? Because he's a minority. Asa Bibi in Pakistan, in prison. Why is she there? Because she's a minority. We have to be doing something about these people. We have to be caring. We can do it. Statistics, they can kill us. The television, we can look at the pictures while we eat our pizza and somehow it washes over us. But when you start to touch the human beings, the stories, the people, then you start to do something, and one by one, things get changed. Listen, people, it's time that we got our hands dirty. Let's get back to the coalface. God bless you.